As Sinn Féin MEP, I brought a strong delegation from Ireland to the European Parliament to present to fellow MEPs evidence of collusion. There is no doubt that the British government and its agents acted with impunity, and the government itself actively suppressed the truth about their involvement in the conflict in Ireland. They granted immunity from prosecutions to British personnel to prevent the truth from being told in open court, and the Inquiries Act secures secrecy about British collusion, as is clear in the murder of human rights lawyer Pat Finucane. Collusion was planned, it was authorised, and it was endorsed at the highest level of the British government, and it went right into the British cabinet. So I brought family members, campaigners and human rights lawyers from Ireland to the European Parliament to discuss what happened to the Ballymurphy families, in Kelly's Bar in the White Rock, to the New Lord Six, to those killed in Sean Graham's bookies, to discuss the Loughin Island killings, the Shankill UVF killings, Pat Finucane's case, the Hooded Men, and to discuss with MEPs justice for the forgotten cases in the 26 counties, highlighting the Dublin and Monaghan bombings, plus the murder of my friend and Sinn Féin councillor Eddie Fullerton. Now, whilst the Haas-O'Sullivan talks and recommendations was a serious political attempt on the part of Sinn Féin to deal with the legacy of the past, the legacy of the conflict is without doubt a legal responsibility which the two governments need to deal with. Clearly, for instance, Article 2 of the European Convention of Human Rights, which is the law and which deals with the right to life, enshrines the right to the truth for families of loved ones killed by the state. Governments are obliged under the law to discharge their duty under Article 2 and properly investigate state killings. And given that the current package of Article 2 measures in the North are inadequate, the state clearly is in breach of European law. Families of collusion are not asking for favours. They are requiring the British state to discharge its legal obligation, and therefore the delay in discharging that obligation is another form of impunity, as well as the British government breaching its legal obligations to discharge its Article 2 duties. It is absolutely appalling that Eddie Fullerton's family is having to take the Irish government to court, as it too has breached Article 2 in relation to the killing of Sinn Féin councillor Eddie Fullerton. It is clearly the case that at no time during the 23 years since his murder has the Irish state properly investigated what happened to Eddie. The European Court of Human Rights has already found against the British government for breaching Article 2 in relation to 12 killings in the north of Ireland, and there are, without doubt, many, many more. Other influential bodies, such as Amnesty International, also found Britain guilty of human rights violation. The Stocker and Stevens report proved collusion by the British forces and unionist agents, and the report concluded that the intelligence community saw itself above the law. And so that same intelligence community went on to prove Stocker right by setting fire to his office in an effort to destroy evidence. Nuala Alone, former police ombudsman, outlined details of how Special Branch and CID personnel knew informants had been involved in killings, yet they were given immunity. The Pat Finucane Centre has unearthed official papers showing that collusion went to the highest level in the British cabinet, and that lies have been told to victims, their families and to courts. The T.G. Cahir documentary on Eddie Fullerton outlined how an unmarked RUC car picked up suspects in Derry and aided their safe passage en route from Buncrana after his killing. And recently, Anne Cadwallader's book, Lethal Allies, gives indisputable accounts of the involvement of the UDR in the Glen Anne murder gang. Yet, despite the wealth of evidence showing British state collusion, the British government has worked hard at presenting itself as being the honest broker in the conflict in Ireland, keeping the two warring tribes apart. The reputation it seeks to project in the EU is of law-abiding peacemakers, promoting peace in places like Ireland, when in fact they were calculating in their actions, and their actions were so calculated that they actually prolonged the war in the 6 counties and across Ireland. Therefore, the delegation that I brought to the European Parliament helps to challenge and tarnish British polished performance about their reputation, the experience of loss and the subsequent denial of justice that members of the delegation shared with us in the European Parliament exposed Britain's true role in the conflict. At times, the British government used loyalist gloves mainly to keep their hands clean, and loyalist gangs which they armed and they financed were used in an attempt to keep their role in the conflict concealed. It is not the case that on the balance of probability that there was state collusion. It has been proven conclusively that those who were paid to uphold the law broke the law. So as Sinn Féin MEP, I have a duty to expose to fellow MEPs that the role that Britain played in the war in Ireland was one of a protagonist, and that the British state caused deaths and destruction throughout the conflict, and that the undisclosed truth and the truths that have yet to be told about those killings will not go away.